Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
Doing great, man. This is our third show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. This is going to be entertaining, and we're having a good time getting lots of views.
Yep, yeah, we certainly are. Good feedback from the community. I want to thank everybody for supporting this podcast and listening to it, and supporting Mike Gage for Sheriff. So that's why we're doing this, so you all can get to know the man behind the name and the badge. So I just want to kick this off this morning by saying, Mikey, you're almost always in a jovial and happy mood, but this morning you seemed a little tense, buddy. What's going on?
Oh, just some. I got some feedback from some officers of the incidents that's been happening for the last 2 weeks, and I believe it's becoming a big officer safety issue. And so what had happened is one of the officers got a car took off on him when he tried to make a traffic stop, and almost hit a pedestrian. So the officer didn't pursue, but they did file criminal felony charges on him for almost hitting a pedestrian and obviously the fleeing and eluding. A couple days later, officer saw the vehicle again, went to stop the vehicle. The vehicle took off again. They couldn't chase him, even though he had felony charges and he had almost hit somebody the previous time. Wednesday morning, they saw the guy and at his house, and they went. I think there was 4 or 5 officers went to confront him, and he ran to his car, almost hit intentionally one officer on foot, struck a patrol car, and then took off. And the officers were not allowed to chase him; they just had to let him go. And this guy just attempted to murder a police officer by running him over, and the officers watched him drive off. And I think it's at a point now where the officers are more concerned, am I going to get fired if I chase him? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to get charged with the crime? And they're spending too much time thinking about the what ifs instead of just doing their job. And it's getting out of control.
So let me get this straight here. He attempted to run over a pedestrian a day or so before.
A couple days before,
which is technically, attempted vehicular, or manslaughter murder.
Correct.
Right? He's using his car as a weapon to save his own skin. And then, of course, driving like a maniac to get away is also endangering the public on his end, not the law enforcement's end. They're trained to drive. And then when they went to, arrest him in his residence, he did it again, only endangering multiple officers. So this sounds like it's an incredible threat to the public.
Well, he's a big threat to the public as well as our law enforcement. And this chase, I guess, had they pursued him, would have been roughly 5 o'clock in the morning. So there isn't that much traffic out on the streets of Butte. So that would have been the perfect time.
That would have been a good time to do it. Yeah.
The officers could have used deadly force. If he's driving his car at an officer,
right?
The officer has the ability to use deadly force in that situation, and instead they just let him go.
And he did damage a vehicle too.
He damaged a patrol car. Yes.
Patrol car, yeah. And so, why do you think the officers didn't respond with deadly force in that situation?
There are probably several factors. It could have been, endangering other officers. I wasn't there. I haven't seen cameras. I don't know exactly how, the position that he was in and where the other officers were located. But there's several instances where is the department going to back me if I do use deadly force, and and am I endangering other officers if I do try to attempt to use deadly force on him? So there's just the officers aren't allowed to do their jobs now, and if you can attempt to hit a police officer and they're not going to go after you, what are they going to do when people are breaking into your homes? And are we're just going to let everybody run from us and get away and not arrest them?
Yeah, I mean, I almost have no words for this. It's so it's ridiculous, really. I mean, citizens, we all live here, we work here, we play here, pay taxes, live here for a reason, and we're not getting what we paid for. I mean, there's no public safety at this point. I mean, how are you going to nearly kill an officer, damage, local city property by damaging the vehicle? I mean, this guy really doesn't want to get caught, and you know he has to get caught. He's obviously a threat to the public. He doesn't care about anybody's life. If you're gonna attempt to kill a law enforcement officer, you know that's a death sentence. Either you're gonna go to prison the rest of your life, or you're gonna get shot. Either way, it ends badly for you. And if you're willing to do that, then who won't you try to kill?
Right, and he's now learned that all he has to do is get to his car. If he can get in his car,
it's the safe zone.
Right, that's the safe zone, and they're gonna watch him leave every time and not go after him. Me in that situation, you know, I would have, you know, again, I'm gonna have my officers trained on how to do the pit maneuver. We would have went after him, and he's a threat to the public at that time. He's a threat to our officers. We would have done whatever was needed to end that pursuit.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like third time's a charm. What's going to happen next? I mean, who's going to get hurt?
Right. We could already have him in jail. You know, we could have put an end to this, and
right.
we're
could have been avoided already. Yeah, especially at 5:30 in the morning. I mean, you got to roll the dice and do what's best for public safety.
Well, funny thing. So they, of course, they know who this guy is, and they had staked him out a few days earlier. I believe last Friday, and while they were waiting for him to come out of the house. Again, now would be a good time to use SWAT team. You know, you've got these charges against this guy.
Right.
You know, he's in the house. Let's go get him. You know, let's get him
Get
before
him
he gets out of the car.
Already sleeping, right? I mean,
I don't know that he really sleeps much during the night. I think there's some other things probably going on in that residence. And like I was saying, the previous Friday they were kind of staking out the house and saw a girl who they knew had a warrant. And so they went to arrest her, and she had a felony, no bond warrant for aggravated burglary. So that means the judge wants her in jail.
No bond,
you know, yes, when you put a no bond on somebody,
it's a one-way ticket.
Right? They're a threat.
Yep.
They're a threat to the public. And so the officers went to arrest her, and they were told to release her. That they could not arrest her and have her check in with her parole officer.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
absolutely ridiculous.
It's getting to be a clown show. What's going on?
It's a calamity all day, and it's embarrassing.
Well, yeah,
it's absolutely embarrassing.
I know the patrol is just up in arms right now on not being able to do their jobs, and you know it's just everybody is a catch and release right now.
I mean, what's the point of them putting on their uniforms and going to work? I bet they ask themselves that. Because it's kind of like they're being strapped down like mall security. They can observe and report.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can't arrest anybody. Yeah. You can't, you know, we don't have room for them. You know, just let everybody go. And the public knows this now. I mean, right. the criminals know this. They're
exploiting it all
right.
day. That's what this is.
Why not? I mean, if you're a criminal and you know you're not going to jail, then
it takes a set of balls to do what he did. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah.
So that's emboldened.
Yeah, he's going to hurt somebody, you know. And I, if it was me, we would go pick him up. We'd hit that house and go get him. You know,
yeah.
Well, we know he's in the house.
They know where he is. Yeah, it's easy. I mean, so you're right. Maybe he doesn't sleep nights because he has a hobby that keeps him awake.
Something's
but get him at 10 a.m. when he's sleeping it off, right?
Right.
I mean, at some point he's going to be at the house. And if this woman that had the no bond warrant is living there as well, it sounds like a real interesting little place.
Yeah, you know,
and a cast of characters living in
I think there's
or whatever it is.
I think if the jail was full, I think that would be an instance where we could make room for somebody.
Yeah.
You know, if he's trying to harm our officers and has almost harmed the public, that's something we need to get rid of.
I'm actually shocked that they've been pushed around this much, and then this guy's still cruising around out there.
Yeah,
I mean it's insane.
His car's pretty identifiable, so I mean it's not hard to find. They see him, but he's just not going to stop, and if he's not going to stop, they're not allowed to. Hopefully, I guess all we can hope for is that the highway patrol finds him and they'll chase him and they'll put an end to it.
Yeah, I mean let's hope that they catch him before I mean if he's still there when you're elected, I mean you know at least you know what's on one of the top 10 on your list.
Right,
hopefully he's apprehended before the election. But
if he, you know, I know they're not allowed to pin anybody in, but I think that'd be an instance if you thought he was going to his car.
This time you need to break the window and pull him out of the window. Yeah, because
you don't leave him an escape route.
It's kind of I don't even know. I mean, it speaks for itself, folks. I mean, that's if you got any pride or sense of competition or anything, or just general safety for the public, I mean, this guy that's ridiculous, and it's a slap in your face.
Yeah. It's a game to him, and
it is a game to him.
He knows exactly how to win the game, and he knows what the officer's limitations are. And
the problem with his end of it, though, is he's not afraid to kill somebody. Apparently,
no.
I mean,
he's got no regard for the public safety.
Zero, absolutely zero. So let's hope they get him, or maybe the officers that listen to this podcast, or if they share it with anybody that makes decisions, maybe they'll come up with a plan to put this guy behind bars or handcuffed to a bench, whatever they got room for.
Well, hey, on the good news is we do have a current officer that has agreed to come on to the podcast here in the next few weeks. So we'll hear some of the things that are going on straight from the officer's mouth. And
well, that'd be great. Can't wait to find out who that is. And
yeah, we'll release that here in the next couple of weeks. So sure. I have a feeling there's going to be more than one. So
that's great. Now, the more support from the boots on the ground, the more inside perspective from the boots on the ground, the more that you all will understand why it's critically important we get this guy elected as sheriff sitting across from me here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on that the public just doesn't know about, and if they did, they would be up in arms if they knew that the local police were handcuffed so much that they couldn't do the jobs. And if you're a citizen of Butte Silver Bow, you see it every day. You get to watch the show go on the streets, and just know that there's a lot more behind the scenes that's going on that's preventing the officers from dealing with these issues.
Certainly, and that's going to be great to hear it from some of the officers, so that, it's not just us talking about it. Right. And obviously there'll be more, incidents that they can dive into. Right. And some that they can, obviously, but we're not here to dog out the current administration, completely as a person, just as management of the law enforcement here in Butte and Silver Bow. It's time for new blood. It's time for a fresh start. Right. Because as I said in the first podcast, 12 years has been enough to see that we're headed in the wrong direction, and it's time to turn that car around.
Right. Yeah. We got to make some changes, and I've yet to see the current administration come out and, number one, admit there's a problem, and number two, what is their solution to the problem? Mm-hmm. It's not been done once since I filed. It's all, well, we've been here 30 some years, and that's it. They've yet to admit a problem, and they've yet to admit that or tell us what they're going to do to fix this. And I'm all about, I've come up with many solutions to fix the issues going on here, and telling people this is what we're going to do, this is what needs to be done, and they've got nothing.
Yeah, I think when you're lost and you don't have a solution, you won't admit there's a problem because you want to avoid it altogether. I don't know how to fix it, so that there isn't one.
Right. Yeah. I talked to the officers about the sex trafficking going on in here, and which I assumed there was some. It wasn't until my meetings with the Butte Rescue Mission and things like that I found out how big of a problem it is. Then speaking with current officers, they know it's a problem. They know that Rocker, the truck stop, the hotel out there, has a lot of sex trafficking going on, and there's no plan on how to deal with it. When it's brought up, it's just kind of brushed under the table. So,
I mean, you think that they just brush it under the table because they don't want to deal with it, or they don't feel it's a problem because it's in Rocker and not necessarily Butte?
Probably a little bit of both, but it is in Butte, so right, it's happening in Butte. I don't think they know how to deal with it. Is my guess. But then they don't know how to deal with the drug problem here either. It's let's ignore it, or
Do you think it's still perceived as like Butte and a lot of Montana was 30 years ago, where these things were unheard of, so they're kind of looking at it through those lenses?
No, they know it's a problem. They know it's here. They know the cartel's here. They, for whatever reason, and I'm sure at some point we'll find out, but they're just not dealing with the issue.
And I mean, those are some pretty significant issues that you'd want to tackle early when they first start popping up, and not after they rooted.
Right. Well, they're well rooted here now.
Sure.
It's going to take a lot of work to get them out of this area.
What's the source of that in Rocker?
Probably the truck stops.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's easy. You've got all those truck stops there. So, and it's not patrolled. So, you've got no police presence out there. There's no deterrent to stop it. So these people, they have free reign. It's no different than the drugs that are coming into this town. They have free reign. You know this as well as I do. I mean, we've got businesses in Butte operating as a business when they're nothing but a front for drugs. And you've heard these things. We know which businesses they are. If we know, then the sheriff's department has to know which businesses, which restaurants, which bars are dealing in large amounts of drugs.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure they do. It's not necessarily an easy thing to keep the lid on information in smaller towns.
Right.
Everybody knows everybody, so you're gonna say, "Hey, so and so." Now, some of it may be BS, some of it may be an exaggeration, some of it may be, and a lot of it probably is very accurate, actually. But at the end of the day, it's all under the same problem that they had with that traffic stop, where the guy just flips the bird and takes off at law enforcement officers. Same reason why people are slinging drugs in their restaurants and bars. It's all emboldened because what's going to happen to them?
Well, they know nothing's going to happen.
So this was if you and I are drug lords or cartel members, or we have a trafficking business, this place is like, it's the streets of gold. I mean, it's open territory.
Come to Butte, because we're not coming after you.
It's a gold mine here. So I mean, it in 10 years' time, if this isn't reduced dramatically, it's going to be truly a CF here. I really believe it.
I don't think it's going to take 10 years. I think in the next couple of years, if they don't put an end to this now, they'll never regain control.
Yeah, I mean, you have an open territory.
Yeah.
And then, what happens in situations like this, as well as I do, is there's a lot of money to be made in that business. It's human trafficking, drug trafficking, right? It's a $1 billion industry. You can buy politicians, you can buy the city officials, you can buy lawyers, you can buy all these people, and then you run unabated.
Right. Well, let's hope that's not happening.
No, I hope not. No, because that's what makes it hard to get rid of at that point. Because there's all kinds of financial liabilities and a lot of evidence, and it's a messy. It really sounds like a movie, but it does turn into. That's why they make movies about that. They've made many movies about cases of what we're explaining, and it always ends badly for the people involved. Either go to prison or the cemetery.
Right.
There's no retirement plan in that world, and the people, the innocent victims, are the citizens of that community. So everybody needs to get together, realize that this is happening here, and you got to vote for change in November. You have to.
Right, because it's not going to change unless you vote for change. I mean, if you keep the status quo, we're going to end up, and you're going to keep having these problems every day where businesses lock their doors during business hours because of the foot traffic out in front of their businesses that they don't want. And, people are going to drive into town, and the first thing they see are, the people that are high on drugs, the people that are having their mental health crises on the sidewalks, and that's not a good first impression. And we can clean this place up, and we can make it a respectable community and not the laughingstock of Montana. And the Butte is a wonderful, wonderful place that has many wonderful people, and we're just letting this town turn to trash. And we're doing it voluntarily because we're not letting our police officers do their jobs. You let the police go do their jobs, give them the discretion to do their jobs, don't micromanage them, and we will clean this city up.
100%. And you're right. In Butte, especially, Butte's a great town. People here have been just fantastic to myself and my family. And Uptown, the architecture, the buildings, the homes,
it's beautiful.
It's absolutely amazing. Picture a different Uptown where there's been a lot of renovations. The empty buildings are full of local businesses that are thriving. Tourists are walking around in the summer slinging money in the town. Everybody likes that. The houses are a lot of the old houses that are empty or completely refurbished, beautiful green lawns. I mean, it literally does not have to turn into a Bozeman per se. It just needs to turn into something, a better version of Butte.
Right.
Otherwise, these houses sit empty. We've all seen this in other cities. We both came, from other places. They become crack houses or meth houses.
Well, and there's a bunch of them here.
And they
right.
they break in.
Yeah.
Okay, they take over because they don't want to be homeless either.
Right.
Nobody does, right? And they just have enough mentality to say I need to be in the house and not sleep in a vacant lot, right? But they also set up their drug operations in there. They burn those things to the ground all the time, and you start seeing those things burn because they're cooking their junk in there.
Oh yeah, we have several of those a year.
They burn to the ground because they're cooking drugs in there, and they pass out or whatever, or they don't give a damn. So you start losing those historical houses. I mean, it's a reciprocal cycle of garbage,
right?
And a lot of times, people, I think we're all guilty of this. Sometimes it's not a problem for us until it's a problem, so we don't really react. It's like the frog in the pot I said in the first podcast. If the water's tepid, it's okay. You don't have to jump out. It's boiling, we jump out. But the water's the temperature's rising,
right,
folks. It really is. And right now, you might, I don't like getting involved in politics, and I'm not sure if I know who this guy is. He's not from Butte. Well, you got to realize that the people that are from Butte, some of them are fantastic. Some of them are a little out of gas when management and speaking directly to the administration of the sheriff's department. And I'm sure that, like I said, he's probably a great guy to hang out with. I don't know, right?
I've never heard a bad thing about him.
I mean, I've only ever heard good things about him, so I'm sure he may be a good hunting partner, or sit down and have a beer. But I think that it's time now is the corner that we need to turn before this gets worse. And then you're like, oh crap, we can't go back. We have to wait till the next election cycle to try to get Mike in.
The problem is Butte doesn't have that much time.
Right.
I mean, it's going downhill so fast that we've got to make a change. And it's, even if I don't win the election, they have to make the changes. It has to happen. And I don't think they're willing to change what they've been doing for the last 30 years,
There's no reason to believe at this point it would change at all.
No.
Because, like I said, it's a definition of insanity.
Again, they've yet to admit there's a problem and what their plans are to deal with it. And if you don't have a plan to deal with it, well, then, nothing's going to change. Mm-hmm. It's no different. We can kind of change topics. I know one of the things I wanted to talk about, too, this week was the active shooter training, with a recent assassination attempt, and you see the school shootings, you see the hospital shootings, you see the doctor's office buildings, you've got church shootings, we don't do any active shooter training here, and it hasn't been done for years. And you take places like the hospital, the schools, the county courthouse. I know they haven't done an active shooter training there in probably 6 years was the last time they had practiced, or that the employees there even know what is to be done in the case of an active shooter. And there's all sorts of training courses that you can send your employees to. You can have officers go get certified to teach those classes as well. I know lots of officers who are certified and go to the schools and put on classes, let the schools know, because you really got there's three things, you can run, you can hide, or you can fight. Those are your three options when the shooting comes down. So they train the students, what are your options, what to do, when to hide, when to run, and when you got to fight, and to get your way out of there. And the same thing, they don't do any of this. And again, I know we've talked about this on the show, but they should be training in the hospital. They should do active shooter training in the hospital. They should do it at all the schools. They should do it at the courthouse. They should do it with churches. And let the churches, make sure the churches have a plan to what to do, because we've seen lots of active shooter in churches in the last 5 to 10 years. You see a couple of them every year. And these people just walk in, and I mean, you've got everybody trapped. What are we supposed to do? What is the department's response going to be on that? And we've got to do these trainings, because we got to let people know. We got to be able to communicate with the public as well. If you have a school, letting parents know what to do. These things, they're not natural. You have to train for it and to know. I mean, take for instance the fire the other night. That nobody got hurt. Nothing burnt down. But I can tell you what we learned is that we're not prepared for an incident like that. We're not. We don't have the emergency communication set up. We don't have a way of notifying the public. We've had a system for years, a phone system that will send out notifications. You can pin it down by neighborhood. You can do a couple blocks area to send out an emergency notification. We've had this system for years. Nobody would ever set it up. Nobody took the time to set these things up. And this is what continues to happen in this county. Now, I've seen the last several days, they're sending out the Everbridge communication, and the county's really pushing it out. They've had this system.
Is that what it's called? Is Everbridge?
Yeah.
Is that the, okay.
Yeah, and it's a good system. I mean,
Yeah.
we used to, back in the 90s, I think it was Code Red or something was the one that came out where you could do a city. I mean, now it's not as, it's grown so much now that there's so much more opportunity where you can do it by just a certain neighborhood. Before, it used to, you could do it kind of by town or whatever, but now everybody's got cell phones.
Right.
You've got their addresses entered, so you can pin that and tell people. You can use it for something as small as a water main break.
Right.
You can send out an alert and let people know in that neighborhood, hey, your water's shut off, and
or the street's closed because of fixing the water main.
Right. Or there's a police presence going on in this, stay inside, don't leave your house, or there's a fire or there's a chemical spill
those are important things to know about.
To evacuate or to turn off if you have air conditioning, keep your windows closed,
Right.
These are all things that should be done, and it's not being done, and we are so far behind the times here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm guessing 20 to 25 years, behind what other areas of the United States have done to improve public safety, to improve safety for the general public, and we're not doing it. And I just don't understand why there's such a hesitation, to bring in things that work, that make it safe for people on a daily basis. So, these are all things that we're going to change. And again, we're going to be but we're going to be really involved in the community and get out there and make Butte beautiful again. That's my goal, is to make it safe for the people and make it safe for kids to walk to school, for people to walk their neighborhoods at night. Because I get this every day. I get messages every day, or I get phone calls every day now. People talking about the drug activity. Their kids aren't safe. They don't feel safe letting their kids walk the neighborhood. That's got to end. And we're going to do whatever it takes to bring that peace of mind back, where you feel, even if it's dark out, it's safe to go outside and be in your yard and not have to deal with somebody, having, high on drugs or having a mental health crisis, every time you walk out your door.
Yeah, that would be a welcome change, that's for sure. I'm sure a lot of folks would, right now, when they listen to this, will probably, realize that they've missed those abilities to do that at night, walk their dog, go outside, send their kid to the park, walk down the street uptown or anywhere in Butte.
Because after a while you just get used to it. It's not safe,
right.
And then pretty soon it doesn't even cross your mind. You're like, oh, I know it's not safe tonight, so I'm not going to go out. So
right.
you adjust your schedule to
what you accept and what you get used to becomes the norm.
Right.
And then you don't remember what the old norm was.
And the biggest cop out I hear from talking to people is it's that way everywhere.
Everywhere in the country.
Yeah, it's not. Number one, it's not.
I completely disagree.
Right, and you're just saying that because you've accepted it.
It's their justification for accepting that, right?
And no, it's not that way, and we can change it.
Yeah.
And it's going to take. This isn't going to be a me thing. This is going to be a department thing. This is going to be a citizen. It's going to take everybody. And we're going to include everybody in this process, and everybody's got a stake in it. You know, I mean, everybody wants their neighborhood safe again, and we're going to we're going to be out there communicating with you. We're going to listen. We're going to take what you say, you know, and make the changes that you need. And every neighborhood's different. And that's why I said, you know, we have to have these neighborhood watch groups, and we've got to have several of them for all the different neighborhoods, and, you know, find out what their problems are in order for us to fix those problems. But they need to know that, you know, we need their help. We're going to need their help to know, you know, if you've got a drug house in your neighborhood, let us know. You know, let us come sit on it. You know, we probably need, you know, I go back, you know, again to there's nobody working narcotics on this department, you know, and I you know, how that happens, I have no idea. But
such a joke, by the way.
I think we need our own task force. You know, I know we got the Southwest Montana Regional, which is 7 counties. They don't spend a lot of time in Butte. You know, they've got 7 counties they're covering,
and they probably feel like that's their time would be lost here because there's no support on that.
They're right. I mean, so
yeah, you need a local task force with, you know, with Butte,
right,
and and maybe the DEA and the FBI and anybody else.
Right. I mean, we put a task force together, and we have 4 or 5 officers on the task force, and you make a car stop and you find drugs. You know, you call one of the task force officer guys to come in and work it and try to figure out, you know, where this person's getting their drugs from and things like that. You know, that's going to put a quick end to the drug problem if you've got officers assigned to it. And that's one of the things we will do, is assign a task force within our department to work drugs. And some of them will be probably the detectives, and then I'll probably have a couple patrol officers too. I need those guys. You know, you don't have detectives on 24 hours a day, but if you've got patrol officers that are also part of this task force that can take over the stop and do the interviews, and you know, those are things that should have been done years and years ago, and we're just so far behind the times on it. The cartel members, the people that are running drugs are so far more advanced than they were, you know, 15, 20 years ago. And we're not. This community has not advanced in that. And we're going to make it. We're going to make an impact, and we're going to make it quick. As a matter of fact, I've told the officers, it's up to me. If I'm elected, I will get with the current detectives and things like that, and we will be doing search warrants within my first week of. I want this set up and ready to go on day one, where we've already got our informants. We've been making buys out of these houses, and we're gonna start putting an end to them almost immediately.
Yeah, you have to make a big splash. I'm sure we'll all see Mike's shock and awe campaign as a sheriff when he gets in there and start taking some of these people out of here.
It's going to be, you know, like I said, we're going to use social media. We're going to be big on social media, and we're going to be letting the community know what we're doing, how we're doing it. And, you know, in any big event that we have on search warrants or things, we're going to post it publicly to let people know we executed this search warrant, what we found in there, who we found in there, and what they're being charged with. And every one of those is going to be done.
Montana Tech was one of the major concerns for citizens.
Yep, that was a question that came in about Montana Tech regarding drugs and things like that.
Well, anytime you have a university, well, it's even in our high schools, but you put a group of people like that together, again, you're going to have a drug problem. And you know, to what extent it is going on up there, I don't know, because I don't have that information. You know, obviously we saw that the assistant athletic director was supplying drugs to a lot of the students at the school, and he's since sitting in custody.
That's that craziness that we talked about, though, because there's no rules or there's no consequences here.
Right.
So you got somebody it's in the education field selling that to the students.
And if it wasn't for the United States Postal Service, we wouldn't even know about it. We wouldn't know about it. You know, they got the warrant and opened up the mail and found it, and then contacted the task force, and
Right.
that's how that one came to be. But again, schools are not that difficult. If you've got people, if you've got a task force team, you will know really, really quick where the drugs are coming from. And because it's not that hard. You get a student that
Follow the trail.
yeah, you get a student, they're going to give up information. Again, these students, they're going to college.
They don't want their life ruined.
Right, they have hopes and dreams.
Right.
You know, maybe they made a mistake, but they don't want to ruin their entire lives, you know, over this. And if you work with them, they're going to give you the information to save themselves. You know, they're going to give you information that you can use
Right.
to move up the chain there to find out who's supplying them the drugs. And if there are suppliers on campus, it won't take long to get to them. And but again, you got to have a task force. You got to be working narcotics in order to know that. Right now, nothing's being done on it, so the drugs probably are plenty at the university or at Montana Tech. But until you get people out there that are actively pursuing who's dealing drugs in town, you're not going to know who that person is.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true, and it is. Colleges, this is the one time I'll say that it's like that everywhere. Colleges, it could be a religious college in the Midwest. It could be, you know, UCLA. It could be, you know, you name it, Notre Dame. It could be Montana Tech. They all have a certain amount of drug issues, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of it is the party environment, right? These kids are away from mom and dad for the first time, so they're letting loose. They're hammering, you know, beer bongs and keg stands, if they still do those.
I think they do. I think they do.
And also, you know, they're going to use whatever the popular illicit drugs are of the day, a little bit. That's the air quote experimentating with drugs. And you're right. They do have They have goals. They have dreams. They have a focus. So they're probably at a lower risk percentage wise of ending up out here uptown talking to a telephone pole and yelling at cars. But it's still a problem nonetheless that we can't avoid. So you know it'll I believe you wholeheartedly that you follow the trail, follow the money, follow the drugs. You find the source. Now, being that there's so much drug activity and trafficking in general in this area, and there's no body count piling up on the streets with drive-by shootings and car bombs and bodies being found stabbed and throat cut in a dumpster. That's what you get when you have multiple factions fighting for a territory. There's none of that here, which is likely because there's one faction running the whole shebang, running the human trafficking, the drug.
Well, we know it's the cartel.
Right. And they have no competition. They have a monopoly here. And everybody who's running that stuff out of their bars and restaurants and whatever, auto repair shop, whoever's slinging it for them, they're all working for them. Because otherwise, if there was multiple factions here, we'd have a war zone on the streets.
Well, and if you don't have to go that far to find it, so you can go to Billings, and you know they're having a lot of problems.
They're having a power struggle.
Has problems, you know. Billings being the worst, obviously, and
which is insane because Billings used to be a pretty nice, tidy little city.
But when the cartel takes over, they take over.
They bring chaos with them.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing.
Of course.
And you know, eventually there will be more homicides here in Butte than there are, and it's just a matter of time. You know, you got to stop it when you make it so easy and you let them have a free for all, right? Then more people are going to want a piece of that.
Of course, there'll be competition coming to town soon. Another faction, I'm sure.
And they're going to want their piece of the pie, and that's when you start having the bigger problems. And we want to stop it before it gets to that point.
Of course, because when you get multiple organized crime factions setting up shop in your town, now you got double trouble to deal with because now you're fighting two of them, and they're also bribing, threatening, and buying their way deeper in two different directions. Now, you and I both came from cities that had those problems.
Oh yeah.
You know, I know, you know, Kansas City was no stranger to organized crime. Neither was Florida.
Right.
I mean, you know, we both came from places that had every cartel and mafia from the world has to offer setting up shop, and those cops were a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest trying to deal with that. to say the least.
And you know that is true, and we don't want to see that happen here in Butte. And I it is preventable. It's 100% preventable. We just have to get tough on the drugs now, before it gets any worse.
Right.
And we're gonna do that. And it like I said, you know, it's very, very simple process to do. You just have to make the determination, hey, we're gonna do it, and get a plan together and then execute the plan. And here right now it's going to involve not just us, you know, we're going to have to get the feds involved, and they're more than willing to come in and help, and you know,
having that oversight from the FBI I think will also be good for you as a new leader, because they'll have your back on any major findings that you unearth.
Right, yeah, and we'll find things, you know.
Oh, yeah.
we know we're going to find them, and we'll again, those are conversations that are ongoing. So
yep, certainly. So you know, it's going to take a lot of support from the listeners, from voters, from the public. I mean, everybody's got to get together. It's not just the law enforcement; it's the public. We all have to be a united front to fight this. And Mike definitely needs everybody's support. Not just, especially now, in November. It takes 2 seconds to check that box for Mike Gage, and that's all you have to do and walk away. And then, you know, he's going to get in there, and once the his hands are untied and he's actually the sheriff, you'll see a rapid and positive change. And then, you know, get out and meet him, get out and see, you know, where Mike is, and talk to him, have some FaceTime with him. I mean, he's got his phone number posted everywhere. Call him.
People do. Yeah.
Set up a lunch. Set up business owners out there. You know, anybody out there, whether it's, you know, retirees, veterans, you know, school teachers, doctors, lawyers, you know, nurses. Call them. Set up a time with them.
Yeah, we're willing to meet anytime, any place, and you know, we've got a couple of events this week. We got the big gun show at the Civic Center. We'll be down there meeting people. The Stuff the Bus is today at Town Pump on Elizabeth Warren. You know, so we can get the supplies to these children that need school supplies, and families don't necessarily have the money to go out and purchase it. So that's a big thing that's taking place today. So we'll be involved in that. I've got a dinner tomorrow night with a group of employees from another business here in town. So, you know, there's every day more and more people are reaching out. You know, this podcast is being successful. You know, we've passed 1,000 followers on our Facebook page. So we're getting out there. We're doing everything we can. It just, you know, people have to decide, okay, you know what, enough's enough. You know, I'm not going to vote for somebody just because they were born and raised in Butte. You know, that is not working. It hasn't been working, and it's not going to work. You got to sit there and say, you know, I see the problems, and I'm going to vote for change. And you know, again, no, I wasn't born and raised in Butte. I live in Butte. I've lived in Butte. Butte is my home, and I want to make it safe for everybody. And I want to, if I could just go back 8 years, and this is a totally different place. And, you know, most people that are in Butte now are not born and raised in Butte. So, you know, they've left, they've come back, you know, things like that. And it you know, I chose Butte. I love Butte, you know, and I love the people in Butte. And let's just fix this, you know, and get it back to the way it was, and have a nice, safe community.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I remember Butte in the 80s and 90s, and it was starkly different as far as crime-wise than it is now. And, you know, it was, you know, we moved here for the same reasons, you know, most people do, and Mike did. It's a great community, and Mike and I don't have some secret, evil, maniacal plan of turning this into Los Angeles, as everybody calls it.
That's the last thing we want.
It's the last thing we want. We want to actually, you know, make it a better version of itself and a safer version of itself. That's our goal, and it's a trickle-down effect that benefits everybody in the community. It's not benefiting either one of us only. It's the whole. We all benefit together the same way. Safe community, safe businesses to thrive, you know, and enjoy it here. It's beautiful. I mean, this place is amazing.
Yeah, again, you can't beat the scenery. You can't beat the people. It's an amazing place to live, and you know, it's one of those things you want to keep a secret because you don't want people coming out here, you know, and but yeah,
and one little side note too, folks. The cartel. I've said it 1,000 times in these last 3 that they make a bunch of money. We all know that. Duly noted. They invest in other things too. They don't just put their money in a, you know, a Adobe house in Tijuana and roll around in it. You know, they invest it because they have to move it, right. You can't, you know, and a lot of their earnings here is in American dollars, not pesos. So there's an exchange. So they know this. They put it, and they have a hard time sheltering it in banks because if you put, you know, $100 million in a bank and don't explain why, the IRS tends to knock on your door. But they invest in development, right? Because that's how you can hide your money, right? They did this in Miami in the 80s, the Colombians did, and they built up high-rise buildings. And so they have to put it in something. They did that in New York in the 70s, and LA in the 50s, and Las Vegas in the 50s, right? What you don't want is them investing in developments in Silverbow or Butte. Because they have enough money to say, yep, we're going to put in Art Deco condos over here off of I-15.
Right.
That ain't happening here because you know
we don't
now
want
they're
this
in my
place
backyard,
growing.
right?
Yeah,
So
we don't. That's the last thing.
It's the last thing you want is they start cutting big checks, and they don't go there as, you know, El Chapo, that was his name.
Right.
They send a shell company, you know, a guy named, you know, John Doe shows up and they're backing the shell company and he wants to buy up this dilapidated building uptown that has a bad foundation and it has to be torn down even though it's historic, but they have to rebuild something that matches it, right? Yeah, that's how they do that. They own real estate. They own car washes, strip clubs, laundromats, things that create cash businesses. So bear in mind, folks, that, you know, we want to keep it Butte, and you got to help Mike keep it Butte before they start bringing in their investment funds too.
And then all of a sudden it becomes
a nightmare.
Bozeman.
Right, and it becomes a nightmare too. Try to get rid of a company that invests millions into the economy and try to connect the dots between them and drug trafficking is nearly impossible because then you get other people and high-end lawyers telling them, you know, cease and desist order from the sheriff, he's harassing, you know. Good luck trying to get the needle out of that haystack.
Right, so. Yeah. One of the questions somebody brought up the other day to me was why didn't the sheriff's department do any sheriff sales here? And you know,
selling seized
right, we did that a lot of times. So I asked a couple of police officers, what's your evidence room look like? And they kind of explained it. It looked like, you know, a house where you walk into where hoarding's been done, you know, where you got little walkways to go through. And I said, I asked, you know, how many firearms do you have? And they said, oh, our whole basement's full of firearms. So we looked up the statute on it and what Montana law says. And it doesn't say the sheriff can or sheriff should sell these guns. It in statute says the sheriff shall sell these at a sheriff's sale. Now, those guns have to be sold to
somebody with a license,
somebody with a federal firearms license. Yeah, they have to be sold to dealers.
Right.
So, you know, they've got vehicles there that I haven't seen a sheriff's sale since I've been here. Now, you know, normally they're posted in the paper or online. Yeah, I don't know why we're doing it, but there's a source of money, you know, I think it goes probably to the general fund or whatever. So I asked some of the officers, have you guys done anything? They said, no. I said, why not? You know, we don't know, you know, but the actual statute says they have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would think they would start doing that just to you know, get some budget.
Right,
extra budget going. They're down officers. They need to hire. They're down jailers. I mean, you know, if you got enough firearms and cars and boats and motorcycles and whatever else side by side, Lord knows what they have up there.
Start selling that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, clear. Where do they even keep it? I mean, they must have a massive yard if it hasn't.
I don't know. I've heard that that yard where the vehicles are is completely full, and it sounds like the evidence room.
You got to get rid of those. They'll rot. It'd be useless. Yeah,
it's just as bad. So. And I think they hired somebody recently to try to get the evidence room somewhat in shape, you know. But yeah, you could go in there and you start doing shifts, so you do your job. You know?
I would almost love to see that room.
I know, I would too. Kind of looking forward to seeing what all is down
it's
there.
Like a treasure trove and stuff.
I'm sure there's some really interesting, neat stuff down there.
Some funny things. You're like, why'd they even take this?
Yeah, I know they had some. I think they said they had some like old Thompson machine guns one time in there, and they've disappeared. Nobody knows where they are, but they had them. You know,
that's funny. They haven't had an evidence. They haven't had a sheriff's sale since Prohibition.
Probably not. I mean,
they got barrels of whiskey
yeah,
down there.
It'll be interesting to see what all's down there at some point, though. But we will do the sheriff's sales, and we'll clean up that evidence room.
Yeah. That would be. I can't wait to see that. It'd be like definitely like a museum piece, probably. So you're gonna be today. Where are you going first from here, in case anybody wants to come shake?
Well, we're gonna go. We've got some. We've got some stuff to deliver to the Stuff the Bus. So we're gonna go stuff the bus, and then we'll be at the gun show today and tomorrow. Not sure on times yet. We'll have those posted here shortly. Sure. But yeah, we're gonna do those, and then we've got some meetings coming up here in the following week with some groups, and we're, like you said, we're just gonna get out there and keep meeting as many people, and supporting Butte, and this is what we want to fix this up. We want to correct the issues that are going on here, and of course, we're going to have the backs of our officers again. Again, that's the most important thing, is that we're going to let the officers do their job and give them all the support they need, and we will be increasing patrol. So we'll be you'll see us in these rural communities. We're going to have a presence, not just in Butte, but we're going to have a presence in all of Silverboe County, and you're going to be seeing us daily. So if you don't want us there, too bad. We're gonna be there, and for those of you that want to see us on a daily basis, it's going to be happening. Yeah,
well, speaking from somebody myself who lives in the rural community of Silverboe, it'll be a welcome change. I can't say that we have noticed any strange activities or anything out here, which is part of the reason why we live out here. But it'd be nice to see officers patrolling. There's lots of cars that end up at the side of the interstate out here and broke down,
right,
and or abandoned.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of those.
There was one car by my exit last month. Had been there for like a month, and the poor kid, he left a note on his dashboard that he's saving money to get it towed. And I almost felt bad, like
where you wanted to
call him and say, "Hey, let me get it towed," and because we've all been there. He was probably young, starting out, didn't have two dimes to rub together. Stuff's so expensive these days too; it's crazy. So I finally, after a while, I was like, I saw a highway patrol at the gas station nearby, and I was getting gas in my truck, and I talked to him. I was like, hey, there's a car. I gave him the description of the vehicle. Maybe you can do him a solid and have it towed. Just, maybe, donate it or keep it, talk to the driver, see if you can keep the impound fee down,
Right.
And they did. They towed it out of here because it'd been there for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. At that point, man.
Yeah.
There's two people passing through. I didn't want anybody break the window or vandalize.
Well, then that's what normally happens. Eventually somebody
torch it. I've seen cars get torched for sitting too long. Somebody sets it on fire just to be a jerk about it.
Or they just break out every window,
bust every window, pop the tires. So hopefully the kid got his car back and he's cruising around. Hopefully it wasn't the guy that was evading police 3 times.
Yeah. They know who he is, so it's just a matter of time before they get him. But hopefully they get him sooner than later before he hurts somebody or before he hurts an officer, because that'll be a worst case scenario.
Oh yeah, certainly. Anybody. I mean, it's just crazy. But we'll see what the next this new week brings us for details and stories from the files of Butte. Sheriff PD.
It doesn't seem to be a lack of stories coming out there, so I'm sure there'll be plenty more.
No, you'll probably never see a live police officer show here until maybe you take over, because that'd be a calamity and a half.
Oh geez, it would be we would sure keep them busy here. They'd love being here if when I get in there, because they're going to see a lot of drug houses go down, and it's going to be, the officers are going to love it because they're going to get to do their jobs, and you know, the public's going to love it because they're going to notice in short order, you know, changes on the streets and
Right.
know that we're here for them and we're going to help them and we're going to clean up their neighborhoods for them because they're begging. I mean, it's not they're begging. You know, what? Please help. I can point out several drug houses on my block. You know, and I've called the police and nothing's being done. You know, and they just give up because nothing's being done and they walk the streets. They pick up the needles, you know, out of their streets and. They try to do the best they can to keep their neighborhood clean, but they're just losing control. They've lost control.
Certainly. I mean, and I for one can't wait to roll up the sleeves and help you make this place.
Well, it's going to take everybody, and that's what's going to be enjoyable is to watch the community come together to clean it up, and they're all wanting it, and we're going to make it happen for them.
Well, it is Friday, and that tends to be the witching hour for. You know, so to speak, for people that are using right now, they're still sleeping. But by midday, they'll start stirring, and then by late afternoon, evening, they're going to be all over the place.
We'll see them on the streets.
Everywhere, yeah. And it's funny, too, as I see, because, you know, obviously we have business uptown. You know, we're there a lot. And, you know, I'm starting to recognize frequently same faces. But lately, the last 2 weeks, bunch of new faces I've never seen show up tweaking and talking to poles and screaming, and I'm like, you know, and I know we had talked about that the last podcast too, is that this is a dumping ground.
It is,
and clearly there's been a fresh load delivered in the last week or so, because I've seen a lot of new faces of, you know, drug users and mental health crisis people walking around and in a crisis freaking out. It's crazy. It's like a never ending. It's like a Pez dispenser for like, you know, all this mess.
Yeah, and the officers will tell you, hey, we got a new group into town or whatever. So they know when they come into town.
They start that bus around.
Right, they start dealing with people that are causing problems that they've never run into before, and so they just get dumped off in Butte.
You know, turn that bus around and send it back to Portland.
Yeah, wherever they're coming from, they need to go back.
Yep. Well, Mike, it's been great talking to you. You know, thank you for all you listeners out there too. You know, just. All you got to do, support this guy. November or even early mail-in ballots that comes in October.
It comes in October, yeah. You know, so
just check Mike Gage, and you already, just by doing that little, you know, action, checking Mike Gage, that takes a second to do. It's such a huge help to straighten this out. You already did. You already did a big part here in cleaning up our town. Your town, your family's legacy, all of you that have been here for generations. I mean, you know, your families, from the founding families that built the town. I mean, all the people sacrificed, that broke their backs in the mines, building these houses and these buildings. I mean, my God, largest historic district in the United States. You know what an undertaking that was to build 100+ years ago? That was tough.
Impressive. Yeah.
That was tough. So, I mean, to all the legacies here, all the history, they would be so ashamed if they could see Butte today.
No doubt about that.
I mean, they would just devastate them. So for their sacrifice, for the future generations that will come, that'll be born here, that'll move here, you know, let's do the right thing and get this place straightened out. Let's all get together and do the right thing and support this guy for sheriff. You know, it's everything. So I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Please send your email your questions to Mike, and we will get them answered in the next podcast. Look forward to future podcasts. We're going to start getting some guests in here too. And all your officers out there patrolling Butte, be safe. We know that it's not you. We know that you have hands tied, and so in between now and you know, the election, you know, just be safe, and we don't criticize you. We understand what you go through, so we support you. And Mike.
Hey, thank you guys. Send me your questions. You know, we're looking forward to them. We enjoy answering them. We enjoy the support we're getting, and we look forward to the continued support. And we'll be talking to you next Friday.
Certainly. Well, you be safe, Mike, and good luck today at the gun show and the
stuff
school,
the bus.
The stuff the bus drop off for school supply. That's important. I think we might help you out with that.
I appreciate it.
Over there for sure. So, all right, everybody have a great weekend, a safe weekend, and we will be back next Friday.
Look forward to it.
All righty. Take care. Done.